Michelle Trachtenberg has tragically died from natural causes at the age of 39. She's best known for her work in the late 90s into early 2000s. By the age of 3, she was a certified child actress, having booked her first commercial and gaining traction in Nickelodeon's P&P. By the time she entered my atmosphere, she'd already deeply established her mark in teen media. Her roles in Gossip Girl, Harriet the Spy, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer are some of the most impactful from my own childhood. She wasn't flashy. I rarely remember any of her press tours or any boastful interviews. I never saw her in TMZ photos, partying with heiresses. For me, she was simply an actress that would pop up on your screen and you just remembered that you loved her. Her ongoing role as Georgina Sparks was oddly empowering. Was she evil, conniving, and manipulative? Yeah, but she was also witty, calculated, and smart. Her character represented power and influence, control. When Michelle popped up on the screen, you knew that the story was going to take crazy twists and turns, and she kept you glued to that TV. While her roles may seem juvenile to some, I think that it speaks volumes that her characters have impacted so many people, women, young women in particular, and I think she left her mark as a cultural touchstone in a lot of people's upbringings. In her passing, I've seen so many videos and tweets of women sharing their stories of how they got into a career in journalism or editorial because of Harriet the Spy. I've seen professional figure skaters say that they were inspired when they saw Casey Carlisle hit the ice. For me, the most memorable Michelle Trachtenberg role was the one that she played in Ice Princess. I remember being fascinated by the beauty of the rink, mesmerized by the big physics words that she was using when she would just speak to people. And although I have yet to learn how to skate backwards, and I barely passed chemistry, let alone physics, I found her character to be oddly relatable. Like many, after the news of her passing hit, I rewatched the movie and arguably loved it even more now than I did as a child. There are more layers to the movie than I initially remembered. Of course, it's a movie about following your passion, leaning into your natural abilities, and sacrificing and working hard to achieve what it is that you want to do. But if you take a closer look, this movie illustrates so many types of female relationships, ones that many of us can understand all too well. Today, in remembrance of Michelle, I want to celebrate and memorialize this movie and take a magnifying glass to the female dynamics within Ice Princess. Also, hi, I'm Angie. I talk about movies, TV, nostalgia mostly, which is why we're talking about a movie that came out 20 years ago. Come in, stay a while. We have a fun time here. We chit chat, you know? So to start off, Michelle Trachtenberg plays Casey Carlisle, a nerd who needs a Harvard scholarship. She loves physics, so she drafts this entire physics project, and it's dry. It needs more passion. And so she realizes that she needs to apply her physics knowledge to her love for ice skating, which is her favorite pastime. If you're here in this video, I assume you already know what this movie's about. And if you don't, save this video, watch the movie, and come back. There are 4 main characters in this movie, and it's a killer cast. We have Michelle Trachtenberg as Casey Carlisle. We have Hayden Panettiere as Jen Harwood. We have Kim Cattrall as Jen Harwood's mom, Tina Harwood. And then we have Casey's mother, Joan, played by Joan Cusack. I don't know why she decided to keep her name, but I think that's pretty cool. For a 90-minute Disney Channel original movie, there are so many relationships to dissect within even just characters, so let's get into it. Starting with Casey and her mom. It's clear that their family is working class. There's no mention of a father/husband in the family, so I have to assume maybe he passed away. Joan states that she never went to college, and that is really the pinnacle of why she pushes Casey to focus so hard on her studies. Joan wants to ensure that Casey has a better life moving forward because she says, and quote, she regrets not being able to give Casey more growing up. These two are clearly inseparable. They work in lockstep. They can finish each other's sentences. That's the type of mother-daughter relationship that they have, until Casey decides that she truly loves ice skating. Now, here's the thing about Joan. She is what we call a second wave feminist, which means that she doesn't find value in stereotypically feminine things. She doesn't care about beauty. She doesn't care about romance and socializing. To Joan, those things are reserved for shallow and unimportant women. And she feels like ice skating in particular has a short shelf life, right? Like like she thinks that if you get into ice skating, these people are going to chew you up and spit you out and you will be of no value later in life. Which, you know, I don't know about the ice skating community, but I can't imagine that she's that far off from the truth. But her delivery in this rebellion is not cool. So this is really the primary tension of the movie, right? So Casey kind of has to pick between these two types of versions of herself because her mom just doesn't approve of this type of hobby or lifestyle. Joan is constantly making fun of the sport and giving little jabs and reminders to Casey that like, okay, this is fun for you, cute little hobby, but you know, keep in mind the real goal, which is attending Harvard University, which brings me into our next relationship, which is Joan and Tina. Whoa. These two don't have a ton of screen time together. I think they're maybe in 2 or 3 scenes together, but Joan Cusack and Kim Cattrall are electric going head to head on screen. They're literally having a bad off. Like, I would not want to be in the middle of those two, you know? When they first meet, Joan is picking up Casey from the ice rink after like what she thinks is just a physics research session, but really she's like sneaking around and she's on the ice. There's tension in the air when Tina comes down from her like office booth thing. She comes down and she greets Joan and they just meet for the first time. And there's clearly this unspoken I hate you in the air. I think it's important to note here that Tina Harwood's character is based on Tanya Harding and her whole story. And it's implied that Tina is Tanya in the situation and the whole cheating scandal and X, Y, and Z. Honestly, I would be interested to see how Tanya and Ice Princess work as a double feature. I think it could work. Anyways, yes, with that context, Joan has these preconceived notions of who Tina is, what her beliefs are, what her work ethic is, and meeting Tina not as a professional ice skater kind of affirms to Joan how disposable this lifestyle is. Once again in this scene, she drops little jabs about the little outfits that these girls have to wear on the ice. This relationship is interesting to me because in the climax of the movie, when Casey and her mom are fighting, Casey asks her mom, why do you hate Tina so much? You know, like, what did she do to you? And in the midst of this big old argument, Joan says, I guess some of us will always hate the prom queen. Whoa. This line struck me. I think I paused the movie here. I was like, what is going on? Because I think that as young girls, when we're little, outside of the circle looking into a life that we want, I think we can get into the comparison game. I think from a very young age, we learn to get into the comparison game with other girls. Growing up, I always felt like I was like a little off the beaten path, if you could say that. Be it in the way I dress, the way I act, my hobbies, my interests, all these things, so socioeconomic class. And when you're young, I think you hope that with time you kind of grow out of these thoughts and feelings of feeling like an outsider, feeling like jealousy, keyword jealousy, towards other girls. And I think that this statement coming from a grown adult, this woman is in her late 40s, you know, this one statement made me realize that competition and this feeling of trying to one up other people is not a feeling that just naturally withers away with time and age. Rather, something you have to actively overcome. Mind you, Joan and Tina did not attend high school together. They were not in the same circles. It's not like they were passing each other in the school hallways, or at least that's to my understanding. So Joan's feeling of jealousy towards Tina is entirely based on what she knows from the public, from when Tina was like this iconic figure skater in her 20s. Joan was vaguely aware of Tina's success, had not spoken 2 words to the woman, and had already made these like preconceived judgments and ideas around who Tina was as a person. This relationship had a very interesting parallel with the 2 daughters, Jen and Casey. When we meet Jen, it's obvious that she's like this mean girl archetype. She's just a popular girl.
You're Casey, right? Here's an invite to my boyfriend's party. Wow. You're in chem lab with Julie and Wilson, right? Can you give that to him?
She walks down the hallways. Everyone knows who she is. She's dating the hottie Lamati on the football team or something. Hockey? Casey is the outsider looking into Jen's world, where everything is seemingly perfect. And it's clear why a wallflower like Casey would be jealous of her. What I found more profound is that Jen actually admitted to being jealous of Casey. It's so like, it's not funny. It's just, you always think that the grass is greener on the other side, right? Only to realize that the person on the green grass thinks that your grass is greener. Like, Jen admitted to being jealous of Casey and her freedom to pursue whatever it is she wants to. If she wants a social life, she can go to a party if she wants. And it's a perceived freedom because what Casey wants to do is skate, and her mom won't let her do that. Jen feels trapped by her mother's expectations to perform, and she's forced to live this like highly intense and stressful life. A life that directly pulls her away from what she wants to do, which is not skate and just go to a party and maybe do well in school. She can't even do well in school because her mom pulls her out of classes so that she can skate and train more. My girl is failing math class. Here, once again, we're shown that Jen and Casey initially hate each other or dislike each other or think poorly of each other without knowing much about each other. Jen is not pursuing skating to be the best, rather to allow her mother Tina to live vicariously through her because her mom Tina was banned in the 80s from skating because of a cheating scandal. And Jen is the manifestation of everything that Tina couldn't be. It's the possibility that is like eating Tina up at night. Disney Channel original movies typically explore a lot of teen-to-teen friendships, teen-to-teen romantic relationships, and even sometimes they throw in like a parent-child relationship. Think High School Musical, The Cheetah Girls, Brink, Double Teamed, even Teen Beach Movie. Like, the list goes on and on, right? You can find all of those archetypes within those movies. What I found the most interesting is that Ice Princess deviates from that almost entirely, making the primary relationship focus Casey, our teen protagonist, and her adult, non-related ice skating coach, Tina Harwood. So let's take a look at Casey and Tina. Casey starts skating for her physics project, and it's clear that she has some real natural talent. Tina flip-flops throughout the entire movie, supporting her, tearing her down, uplifting her again, rejecting her, and teaming up with her again, like over and over again. It feels like Tina is flip-flopping on how and if she wants to support Casey in her ice skating endeavors. After she sees that Casey is rapidly improving on her ice skating, she starts to get like scared, right? That Casey is going to surpass Jen in all of these competitions, and she's getting so good that she could even compete at finals or semifinals or nationals. I don't know. This really big ice skating competition. She does the unthinkable, coerces Casey into competing in a brand new pair of skates, something that if you know anything about ice skating, you should never do because it takes about 10 sessions to even break them in. When Casey finds out that she's been sabotaged, she blames the entire Harwood family, and we find out that Jen had nothing to do with this. Tina did this out of her own volition. Now, as a woman in your late 40s, why are you beefing with a teenager who has nothing to do with your teen daughter? You know, like, this wasn't something that Jen had created out of her mind and said, Mom, can you help me implement this prank, this sabotage? No, Tina had it out for a teen, and she's puppeteering a situation that Jen doesn't even care about. Each of these female relationships start out of assumptions, jealousy, and misunderstandings. Needless to say, I was happy to watch all of these relationships implode and rebuild while watching Michelle shine brightly. Shout out to Teddy one time. There was no reason he needed to be in this movie. He didn't move the plot along. He didn't really do anything other than be eye candy for me as like a 6-year-old. It's like the reverse Bechdel test, you know? He had no stakes in the game other than to support Casey the entire time. Subscribe if at 9 years old you wanted to ride Teddy Zamboni. Subscribe if you meant that very literally at 9 years old and you mean that a little figuratively now. Here are my closing thoughts. I think that Michelle Trachtenberg deserves to be recognized as someone who brought real comfort into the world. And I think that her work in Ice Princess was important, despite being a Disney Channel original movie. While these movies and her characters may cater to a young audience, I think their impression lasts a lifetime. I will see you next week, and I love you so much. Bye.